So the other big thing at CES besides VR, like the big deal thing, was sort of electric cars.
Yeah.
So there's a few companies there.
People following the line of Tesla.
Yeah.
Which is nice to see.
It's
Always nice to see.
I think they like that as well.
Oh, Tesla love it. That's the only reason they exist.
Yes.
That is the only reason they exist. That's
their
reason
expressed
for it.
goal. That's like their publicly expressed company goal is to enable like the movement away from fossil fuel powered transport into like a sustainable future.
And they seem to be succeeding.
Yeah.
So there was the Faraday Future electric car. What do you think of the way it looks?
A bit lame.
Yeah,
I'm not into it at all.
But it's a concept.
It's a concept car. So it's meant to be kind of silly looking. It looks a bit like, like a Batmobile. Everyone's been saying it looks like a bit like the Batmobile. It's got like that stupid like wafer thing. It looks like a fucking dessert.
That plastic thing
stuck in the back of it.
What
the hell is that?
That looks like shit. Like,
it looks like shit. Get rid of that. Without that, it would look a bit better. But it's still not. I mean, I'm not that into it.
I understand that you make a concept car that's flashy and makes it stand out, is memorable, and is too extreme to be produced en masse. But like, don't make it look like shit.
No.
Anyway,
obviously they don't think it looks like shit. They think it looks cool.
No, yeah.
So Faraday Future themselves, the company, in my mind, is sort of like a bit like the Blue Origin is of so Blue Origin to SpaceX is kind of like Faraday Future to Tesla in a way.
Okay.
So again, they're this secretive company that people don't really know all that much about. Have got a lot of money backing them. Nobody really. I mean, they've always been saying that they've bought up loads of factory space and they're building factories and they've got loads of employees. They're only a few years old.
Yeah.
Nobody really knows what they're doing apart from building cars. And now obviously they've unveiled this is their first like big. Okay, here's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Sort of venture into the public domain now.
Yes.
So in a way, like it just sort of reminds me like SpaceX have Blue Origin sort of doing the similar kind of thing.
Yes.
And Tesla got Faraday Future. Faraday Future is a bit of a rip-off of the name of Tesla, I think. It's like Tesla, Faraday. You're going to start seeing companies called like Edison and like, I don't know, other shit like that.
Yeah, I suppose that often electronics companies, things like Nvidia name graphics card architectures after all the different, like Pascal and Maxwell and stuff. I think that's been done for a while.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few more electric car companies that have these sorts of names.
Makes sense, I guess. I like their logo, by the way. Just saying.
The
Faraday Future logo.
The Fs.
It's like the two Fs. Like, I think that's cool.
Yeah, it looks quite cool. So the specifications for the Faraday Future car. This is just for the concept car, right?
Yeah, it's for the concept car. Yes. It's hard to really work out like what parts of that they'll sort of keep for their consumer vehicle. But this is just to show you, I guess, the concept's just there to show you like what their tech does, what they're capable of, and like kind of things to maybe expect from them in the future.
So they said 1,000 horsepower.
1,000 horsepower, which is huge.
Which is a lot.
It's a racing car.
But when you look
that's
at
like the Bugatti Veyron kind of.
Yeah.
Levels.
When you look at the performance, though, it's 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds. Mm-hmm. They just say under 3 seconds.
Whatever that means.
Which I'm presuming is going to be the higher end in the 2s, like 2.8 or something.
Which is similar to the...
Which is almost... Well, the ludicrous mode Tesla Model S, the highest, most expensive one, does 2.8 seconds.
It's probably comparable.
In acceleration. And a top speed of 200 miles an hour, which I think is quite a lot faster than the Teslas. It does seem slightly odd to me that they have not... The acceleration is comparable to the Model S, because it has a bucket load more horsepower, the Faraday Future car. It also only has one person in that concept car. Not the Tesla Model S can take like five people. 5 people. And then you can add 2 more in the boot
you can.
Space. You've got space for 2.
You can actually see 7
people. So it's a much
people.
bigger vehicle.
Yeah.
And they've got 1,000 horsepower. But I'm presuming the difference is that to get the ludicrous mode Tesla working is not actually related to the horsepower so much. It's the fact that they can deliver so much energy to the wheels very, very quickly. And that's by using some fancy fuses. They had to like replace all the...
Right, okay.
And presumably Faraday Future haven't got that tech or done that tech yet. So its top speed is much higher than the Tesla.
Yeah.
Because it's got the horsepower to get it there.
Yeah.
But they can't deliver as much energy as quickly to the wheels as Tesla can. It's just that they can get to a higher speed.
It's got...
no one needs 200 miles an hour anyway.
No.
Anyways, it's a new concept.
There's 4 motors, so there's a motor for each wheel. Which I think the Teslas have 2.
No,
so I don't.
Not all of them. The P85, the Ds, where they've got a D on the end of it. The Model X has dual motors in all of them, I think.
Okay.
But only the D model Tesla Model S's have dual motors.
Right. And what
D for dual.
Yeah. Okay.
And then there's a big one in the back and a smaller one in the front or something like that. They have a one for each wheel, do they? That's interesting.
Yeah, they have 4. Yeah, one for each wheel. I don't really know exactly. You'd imagine again that would give you more immediate acceleration.
Yeah,
but obviously not.
It's just about how much current you can get through at once, and I guess that's just not. It's just not enough to propel that thing to the.
Yeah.
It's not able to deliver as much energy as Tesla are in such a short space of time.
So
So I was going to go on.
Yeah, you carry on.
I was going to say the actual consumer model.
Yeah.
Is mysterious at the moment.
Yeah, totally.
But there has been some talk about what it might be. And the guy who, I think he's one of the chief designers, I forget his name.
From Faraday
From
Future.
Faraday, was questioned about what the consumer model might look like. And he kind of suggested there was some rally driver or something who was working with them that was talking about what it is. And he basically somewhat confirmed what this racing driver was saying. Okay. And he said that it's actually going to be a much bigger, like kind of almost like SUV like bubble car thing, like a slightly bizarre design. You wouldn't be surprised if it looks like the Cockpit but bigger. Just it's actually going to be nothing like this like ridiculous sort of hypercar that they put out.
That doesn't surprise me. I'm imagining their consumer versions to look a lot more like cars.
I think it's gonna. Well, yes,
but maybe
it
not.
will.
But maybe you're right. Maybe it will look like, if it looks like that Cockpit blown up, like sort of
mental.
A really crazy futuristic looking thing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what I feel about that. I mean,
this is the thing with electric cars is that you've got, because it's a different design to petrol, you can potentially design a very different looking vehicle.
Yeah,
you don't have to do. But the reason people like Tesla have gone down the more traditional route is just so they don't scare people off.
Yeah. That's what people like, and
they're used to that. You don't want to introduce them to a new technology and a totally new like concept of what a car is immediately.
Yeah.
You want to drip that in over years. Tesla's made lots of obviously innovations in that area with the Falcon wing doors, all these kinds of things, but fundamentally it just looks like a normal car.
Yeah.
But you could design an electric car in a very, very different way to a petrol car.
Yeah. So
and
maybe
that Faraday Future have just been like they're just jumping headlong into that, and we'll see if it works. I mean, people tend to be wary of weird looking vehicles. They don't tend to buy very, very, very extreme looking vehicles.
Yeah, I do wonder if that's something that will continue, or whether it will gradually change as people get more used to the idea of electric cars, and then you start having companies like Faraday bringing out stuff that looks a bit more radical, and people are like, okay, well now I'm a bit more open to it,
I mean, the things like the the BMWs, the i9.
Yeah,
i8?
i8, I think.
I keep forgetting because it's like I get confused with because I keep getting confused with the Intels.
Yeah.
It's like i3,
Give it a
i5s, i7s. It's the i8, I think.
I think it's the
top
i8,
end one. It's quite a radical looking car. It looks like a concept car.
It does, yeah.
I mean, it looks badass. I really like that car.
Yeah, they're cool. That's a good example of how to do it, looking different but also badass, yeah. But I think there are some, apart from the existence of Faraday Future itself, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
The car itself, I think, has some sort of interesting things to do with. So for a start, I think people are talking about the actual like chassis of it is going to be the one of their points of manufacturing. This is speculation at the moment, but people reckon this is what they're going to do. Is they have this like the basic chassis is what they will build all of their vehicles on. So the kind of like the chassis at the bottom, you can add as many battery strings into it as you want.
Oh right.
Well, I say as you want up to its maximum capacity. So you can like change based on the requirements of the vehicle, whether it's going to be like a saloon car or like an SUV or a sports car or something. You can give it different amounts of batteries and customize that kind of level of it, and then just put the bodywork on top. So I think that's the kind of they're trying to get towards this like mass producing kind of efficient, cheap production kind of line.
Yeah,
way of doing things, which is kind of interesting.
Well, I don't quite know how the Teslas work. I know the Tesla Model S and the Model X are very similar.
They're very similar, yeah. They're not designed totally different from the ground up.
Just obviously the actual chassis is like different.
Yeah, but I got the impression that the idea is what people think is going to happen is that you have a production line pumping out like the chassis basically, and then like okay, this is going to be an SUV, so we'll whack in this amount of battery power, and then put the bodywork on it, and this one's going to be a sports car, so we'll do something different and put different bodywork on it. That's the kind of idea, I think.
Yeah.
But the other thing, possibly, they've got some quite interesting like tech aspects. So it's like user interface stuff in the cockpit. Call it a cockpit because it sort of is.
It is in the concept.
Yeah, I mean, it looks weird. You sort of sit in this like 45-degree angle chair. And
it's got like a weird seat that.
It's all like morphs around you. And
they said it was an anti-gravity, like a NASA designed anti-gravity seat that like pushes back when you accelerate or something weird.
Yeah, and there's like a helmet that you can wear that delivers like oxygen and water.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
It's mad. I mean, that's not what I mean. That's stupid. Who wants that in a car?
Well,
put on the helmet.
Depends if you're driving it on Mars. I mean, what the fuck? I need some oxygen.
Yeah, that's total gimmick. But
bizarre.
So the whole thing is built around this idea that
maybe it's for pollution.
You mount your smartphone in the steering wheel. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't.
Okay,
that's cool.
So you mount your smartphone in the steering wheel, and it's all connected to your smartphone. So the idea is that this is what they said, and this is all like sort of marketing bullshit, really. But you know how like in the way that you buy a smartphone and its value is as a piece of tech, but then as you use it, you personalize it, and it has an increased value because it's got all your contacts and your life is on it. So they want to sort of bring that into the car in the sense that like it customizes it itself based on settings in your apps, and like it remembers things that you like and the way that you drive and all that kind of stuff.
That's I really like that.
Yeah, I really like that.
And you can probably save that to a cloud and just re-download that profile to new phones you get or whatever.
Yes, exactly. And even if you drive other Faraday cars, you
slip your phone in, readjust everything to whatever.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
I think that's really cool, and I think that's something that they'll continue sort of refining, and we'll see it in the consumer cars probably.
Yeah.
The other thing was like an augmented reality heads-up display.
Right.
I guess so. What I'm imagining is like, you know, in like fighter jets, how you have those like targeting systems that are like sort of like rudimentary augmented reality, a bit like that, but like more futuristic and then more depth to them and stuff. But like in their video from CES, the concept like video thing they released, it was showing like the car like mapping out the road in front of it, and it puts all these displays on the road, and like I guess you could have like directions and stuff, like maps marked on there, and you know, that kind of stuff. So like a heads up display. It's not on the whole windscreen, I don't think. It's like low down.
Or can you have it in this like thing that delivers oxygen and whatever? Can you have it in there like a fighter pilot? I guess so. Probably. The only thing with that is that it has to be really good to work, like to be useful.
Yeah.
Like if it's like
totally reliable.
Yeah, like if it's anything like Google Glasses where they kind of like this is shit, get rid of it, then obviously people won't use it.
Yeah, that's true.
If it's like trying to overlay stuff and it's like sketching out occasionally and there's like stuff that goes everywhere, you don't want that when you're driving.
No, you don't.
I get it's one of those things we need to see, because there is going to be a point where they are good enough, AR technology is good enough that people are happy to use it, and that it is very responsive, etc. Yeah, it just needs to be very good to be not a hindrance and for people to make use of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I guess we'll see. That's cool though. I didn't know that. I really like the idea of that smartphone.
Yeah, I like it as well.
That's really cool.
And just the whole concept of like personalized settings and your car sort of knowing more about you. You know, it has like a personalized aspect and stuff. Even when we move beyond smartphones, which might happen at some point.
And what is that?
I don't know actually. What am I talking about? That's not really what I mean. But like you can imagine the concept of that. You don't have to have it relying on like a smartphone. No, it could just be like a cloud-based sort of.
Yeah, it just downloads it on 4G and you log in somehow. But it seems like a great idea because you can have your phone anyway. Well, maybe you don't need to slot your smartphone into the steering wheel, but that would charge it.
Links it.
It just does it like Wi-Fi. Yeah. It just detects the smartphone that's in the driver's seat or whatever through near-field technology, near-field communication, and goes. Bing.
I do like the idea of having a smartphone like in the steering wheel. Though.
I do as well. Yeah, just could be distracting a bit.
It could be. It encourage you to read text messages and you know, that kind of shit.
And sometimes you want your smartphone a bit up on the windscreen because you want to use it as like a sat nav. So you possibly don't want it down in the steering wheel because you might have to look down too much to sort of see. I don't know. Is that better?
Easier? Maybe that's better. I
don't know. You need to have a go.
Yeah. Anyway, so keep an eye on it and see where they go. But
it's a good idea though. Using your smartphone as like a hub of your settings, your whatevers. There hasn't been any info on the range of any of them.
No, they kept quiet on the range, which is
Well, actually, there's not been a huge. No, it's not that bad actually. The guy did talk briefly about it. He didn't give a number, but he did say it would be comparable to top end models in the market at the moment.
Right, which means Tesla.
Which means about sort of two. Well, it depends on what you take Teslas to mean, but about sort of the 250, 300 range.
Kilometer
range.
Oh, miles.
Kilometer range.
Yeah, I think 250, 300 kilometers.
Yeah. Which is obviously like very decent, and if they stick to that, that's good.
It's better than my parents have an electric car. Well, it's a hybrid, but on fully battery mode, it has like a range of 30 miles on full charge.
A little runner to the shop.
Yeah, but if you turn anything else on in the car, that immediately drops by like 5 miles. So like you turn on like the radio and like suddenly you're looking at 25 miles. Turn on the air conditioning, suddenly now you're looking at 20 miles. Turn on the lights, now you're looking at 15 miles. It just disappears.
You should no, that wouldn't work. I was going to say you should plug in like a little like a wind turbine on the top and just like increase it by 10 miles.
Yeah, or just cover the whole thing in solar panels or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it has like the what do you call it? Is it adaptive braking, where the braking charges the battery?
Yeah, like energy recovery systems.
Yeah, it's got that, but that's a mode you put it in, which feels fucking weird. I drove this thing when I was at home, which was great fun actually.
What does it feel weird?
Because as soon as you take your foot off the accelerator, you immediately feel like a braking system kick in, which is draining power off of the wheels. Yeah. So it's good when you're going downhill and stuff like that, because you can kind of just like sit there and it coasts at a nice speed and it's recharging the battery.
Yeah, almost like coasting downhill in gear.
Yeah, exactly.
Just letting the engine tick over.
Yeah, it's really fun to drive actually. It's just a bit of a tangent.
Yeah, it's fine.
But like, I've never driven an electric car before, and it's totally automatic and it's totally silent. Like, absolutely makes no noise. Like, the first time I pulled it off, I was sat like parallel parked on the side of a street.
Yeah.
Quite a busy street. I was dropping my mum off. She got out. I got into the driving seat and just like sat there, and like it's on, but there's no noise and no sound, no movement, no vibration, anything. It's just sat there, and it's just a weird concept that if I touch the accelerator, it's just gonna move. So like you kind of like get ready, look for a gap, signal, and then just go, and it's just like suddenly just like, I mean, it's not a Tesla or anything, but it has like acceleration kicks you in the chest even with that thing.
What is the acceleration?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
It's because a lot of people say it's the electric cars, they feel faster than their actual acceleration anyway, because you get that power 100% instantly. So it really nails you to your seat. That first jolt is really fierce.
And it does. And that was great fun. Because it's automatic as well. Like, I used to be like, I don't really like driving automatic cars, but now I'm like, fuck it, it's great. Just lazy driving. I love it.
Yeah.
Because it's automatic, you don't have to, so you can just like floor it and it just picks speed up so quickly. That's great.
Yeah. So the other one that was announced was no, it wasn't announced, but the other one that was there was a Chevy Bolt.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like a little kind of runabout 200 mile range.
Yeah, so I think it was quite interesting.
I can't remember.
So 200 miles, I think, in the Chevy Bolt, which is about what the Tesla Model S does.
Oh, right, that's good then.
Yeah, no, it's good. And it's interesting, the Chevy Bolt. It's interesting for a few things.
Right.
First of all, it's General Motors, one of the biggest 3 car companies.
Yes, yeah.
Basically going full in with a really nice consumer electric car. It's also, in terms of its specs, essentially a Tesla Model 3, which is the one that the consumer Tesla, which they're going to be bringing out in a couple of years. So in some people are saying they've beaten Tesla to the punch here, because the Tesla vehicles you can buy now are just like luxury cars, are really expensive.
Yes.
So the consumer model that everyone's waiting with bated breath for, which is due in maybe a year, maybe 2 years, whatever.
I thought it was this comes out in 2017, doesn't it?
The Chevy Bolt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be.
So it's only just beating the Tesla.
It's just beating it,
provided they keep sticking.
But that might be super important for winning customers.
Mind share.
Yeah.
Possibly.
In terms of range and all the specs, it looks like it is essentially what Tesla are trying to do with the Model 3. The only real like big difference is in infrastructure. So it takes about 9 hours to charge the Chevy Bolt up to full charge, and there are no like charging points.
It can it not use Tesla superchargers?
No. Those are Tesla unique things.
That's not great.
No, I mean that's Tesla absolutely, like, doing that was such a good move for them.
Yeah. Because
now they have laid down infrastructure, especially if you're in North America. Like, you can basically get anywhere on roads in North America without having to worry about Tesla range, because you can just stop at superchargers and get another 200 miles from like 20 minutes to charge or whatever. Like that alone is good enough to outcompete.
Yeah, and Tesla have said they're happy for other companies.
Oh yeah.
To use these superchargers if they fork in for the infrastructure costs.
Okay, that's cool.
Obviously, GM, I guess, haven't agreed to that. I don't know if they had. I think Tesla has had a bit of an argument with a few different car companies who tried to squash them when they were younger, and said they won't work with anyone who was basically an arsehole when they were in a more kind of proto state, and rightly so. So I wonder if GM. I don't know what the relationship is there, but
maybe they do have some agreement. I don't know.
Maybe they will eventually use something like that.
Yeah.
You would want really like superchargers to be as common as petrol stations or gas stations if you're in the US. So the more people that invest in them, the better. Really, I don't think they are as common in North America as petrol stations now.
Oh no, probably not. No, but I think I've seen maps of like estimating like range coverage of North America with using Tesla superchargers, and it's like the whole thing is just like covered, apart from like fucking middle of Canada where nobody ever goes.
Yeah,
I'm talking about roads, like driving roads.
So the other two things I was gonna talk about then in relation to the Bolt is, what do you reckon if it's competing with the Tesla? Do you think it doesn't look as nice as a Model S, because the Model S is like a luxury car, and is kind of styled to be a luxury car. Yeah. But do you think the Bolt looks nice? No. Is it attractive to consumers, or is it kind of a bit of a? I mean, it's not as bad as a G Wiz, which is one of the ugliest things I've ever seen. It looks like a car that's been inbred, but the Leaf or something, it looks more like that sort of.
It does. Yeah.
It looks like just a kind of average.
It's not attractive
car.
To me. I think it's ugly as shit. But I can see, I can see like families and stuff. I think people will like it. Yeah. I mean, it looks just a bit like a general like large like sort of family hatchback type thing. Yeah. A bit more futuristic looking. It's got like the sort of Tesla Model X like curved extended windscreen that goes up over the roof, which is cool. Yeah. And the interior looks like pretty comfortable and futuristic and stuff. Right. I think. Does it have many? I can see people liking it.
Do things like?
I don't think it's going to be thought of as like objectively ugly and horrible. No. I just think it's not that great.
It's a bit boring. Yeah. What about technology that Tesla's famous for? Things like autopilot, these kinds of things.
I don't actually know that much about what the Chevy Bolt in terms of like,
or just all the Chevrolet kind of fleet would be potentially integrating that type of thing, even if they're not electric. Presumably, I haven't heard much about it. I know Tesla are like driving super hard in that direction. Yeah. So it may be that the Tesla can compete with it in the terms that it's more like gadgets laden, has more. It's basically a more futuristic car. I do wonder as well how the difference in driving, how they both feel to drive and stuff. Yeah. I don't think Chevrolet cars are notoriously great. No. To drive around like corners and stuff.
And Teslas, I mean, the ones that are available now, Model S, Model X, have been like consistently reviewed as being like some of the best driving experience you can have.
Really, around corners?
Yeah.
Is that true?
Model S for sure. I don't know about the Model X.
No.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and then there was one more electric car I saw as well.
Oh yeah.
Which isn't really a car.
That like little buggy thing.
The Arcimoto, something like that.
Arcimoto, yeah.
It's basically like a 3-wheeled kind of motorcycle. And they actually don't have a steering wheel in it anymore. They have like handlebars.
Oh, okay, that's weird.
But it's quite cool in that it's quite cheap. It's $12,000. Which is, if you're going to save a lot on taxes and fuel for the lifetime of the vehicle, and they want it to feel like a gap in between motorcycles and cars.
Is that a gap that actually exists?
Well, maybe. I think people have tried to fill that gap a few times, and
stuff like smart cars like are very popular for like city run around vehicles. Yeah. So maybe there is a market for it in like busy cities.
If you think of things like in places like India and stuff, like tuk-tuks.
Yeah.
They're kind of like an in-between thing. They haven't really taken off in the Western world particularly.
No, they're massive in like Central and South America as well.
In places
thousands of them,
like China, where the air pollution is like awful. I've been to China and into some pretty polluted places.
And it's getting worse all the time.
Like way off the tourist trail, and it's pretty awful. Like the point where your eyes are stinging and coughing. I know some people who went on the trip that I went to when I was out in Hong Kong. They basically went to a place that they didn't go to the year after because a day in, the lecturer couldn't speak anymore because he had breathed in so much of this stuff, whatever was in the air at this particular processing plant around the area. Literally couldn't talk anymore. They just had to leave and go somewhere else. So air pollution, and it's becoming like more of a thing that China's taking seriously as well. So that type of thing may be great in those type of countries. Cheaper. I think it runs for about 70 miles or kilometers, and up to 135, I think.
For like city run around, you can imagine like replacing all the like little tuk-tuk sort of taxi traffic in places like cities in China or India or whatever with those things.
With something like that.
That kind of size and scale and cost, and they're all electric.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, but do a huge amount for places like Delhi and these very heavily polluted industrial areas.
Yeah. Especially if you can make them autonomous.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like that's some way away from some of these cities.
Yeah,
do you think there's a market for that sort of thing in the Western world? Not autonomous vehicles.
For those Arcimoto things. Less so. Although, having said that, you go to like especially like dense, quite some of the old like European cities like Barcelona, somewhere like that, where the inner city is all like really old streets, really narrow streets. You do feel a lot of people running around in like tuk-tuk type things and like smart cars and that sort of thing in the inner city of.
That's true.
I'm thinking of Barcelona specifically because I went there recently and I know it's in my mind. But there's other examples of that.
You don't really see it here or in the US that much.
No, not so much. Not so much. No. But I can see like maybe somewhere in Italy and France and Spain, like these old cities, inner cities, where you have like narrow streets and stuff.
Yes.
Like parking spaces premium and it's just a bit chaotic driving around in cars. Maybe there is a market for that kind of thing. So
yeah, certainly.
It's less dangerous than a motorbike. Probably.
Well, I mean, borderline. I think they were talking about whether you have to wear a helmet with it.
Oh shit! Okay.
And they said in X number of states you didn't have to, and maybe some you might.
Right.
But the fact, it's open-sided.
Yeah.
So if you get hit by a car, you're basically.
Yeah. But it's probably less.
It's more stable than a motorbike.
Stabler, so you won't come off it so easily.
Probably, yeah. It's 3-wheeled, so it's good.
Okay. Oh, really? Okay. I didn't know that. I thought it was 4. I haven't seen pictures of it.
Yeah,
so.
I think it's 2 at the front, 1 at the back. No. Sort of like a trike.
Fair.
But yeah, I can see that taking off in some places. Maybe not in the UK and the US yet.
Yeah.
The only other thing I saw electric car related was the that i8 adaptation thing. So they basically got the BMW i8, and they had like a fancy new kind of gesture controlled system for the like screen in the middle, where you kind of like you're driving, you have your hands on the wheel or just above the wheel, so you can like grab it and to like switch things instead of like going away from the wheel and pressing,
looking for a
like
button
down
to find it. Yeah,
you just kind of flick left to right like that, making gestures. I mean, it might be one of those things like a Kinect where it's just shit.
Yeah. Plus, if you're like me and you gesture a lot when you talk, if you've got a passenger in the car and you're just like talking and then you end up like
gesticulating,
changing the like sat nav and changing like music and fuck,
I don't know if you like flick a switch and then kind of I don't know, but it looked quite cool. So I suppose the thing that most related to these electric cars then, as well, which I think is going to be really important, is that Nvidia stuff they announced. So this
is for autonomous cars. This is for self-driving cars. For which is the direction that everything's going.
Which isn't necessarily purely electric cars, but
no.
By the time I was going to actually ask you before. Well, actually, we'll talk about that later. So yeah, it's not purely for electric cars. It's potentially could be used on petrol cars.
Yes, of course,
hybrid cars. Yeah. But by the time autonomous cars are a big thing, most cars are probably going to be electric, or a lot of them are.
Yeah. It seems like the kind of the revolution that's going on at the moment with autonomous cars is just synonymous with the electric car revolution. I guess because a lot of the companies building electric cars are looking in that direction because they know that's where the future's going. Yeah. So they're kind of building that in, like Tesla and actually the Faraday Future car as well. They said that it's autonomous and they didn't really give much away about that.
So just before we move off on electric cars and go and talk about the Nvidia thing.
Yeah.
How long do you think you've had a bet recently with your mate?
Oh God,
which is an embarrassment. but how
I don't know. It's not that much of an embarrassment.
No, it was the illegal thing that was the embarrassment.
Yeah. I mean, I reckon that is a thing that will happen.
Yeah.
But not in 15 years.
No. But I mean, how long do you think it will be until 50% of all new cars sold are electric?
50% of all new cars. That's hard. That's a hard thing to answer. Maybe.
No, I reckon.
I reckon maybe 10 to 15 years.
Yeah. Maybe less than 10.
Maybe less than 10. It could be less than 10. There might be an explosion. But I mean, there are a lot. Do you mean in the world? Because
not sure why.
Like
in Europe. Okay, let's say UK and US.
UK and
so
US.
Europe and Europe and
10,
US.
10 years. 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the economics of them make too much sense.
Yeah.
If you have a relatively affordable electric car to start with, and they cost so little to run, I mean, tax breaks will go away for them. People will just buy them because they just make sense to invest in.
Yeah.
And there's many other benefits and things.
I think it's just definitely cool seeing like these companies having their own little ideas that pop up, and you know, we'll see more. Hopefully, see more and more of these types of companies coming out.
Cars are becoming smart cars.
Cars are becoming like
smart.
bits of tech, which is why they're at CES.
Exactly, where they've not been in previous years, really.
No.
I mean, there's been the odd one, but it's really starting to be like a thing that's at CES. It's like one of the categories of consumer electronics that is at CES is cars, which is cool. I'm totally into that.
I'm down with that. That's good shit.
So on that note,
let's
move on to Nvidia.
Yes.
So Nvidia announced their autonomous driving kind of chip it's kind of like a box, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a computer essentially.
Yeah.
It's a hench piece of machinery actually.
Yeah. It's not that big, is it?
No, sorry, I don't mean in size. I mean in power.
Yeah.
It's an absolute beast.
Yeah, it's got a couple of GPUs on it, hasn't it? Two of the new Nvidia Pascal GPUs.
It does. Yeah.
So that though they haven't actually Nvidia haven't spoken about what goes into Pascal yet, which is their kind of new architecture that's coming after the current architecture they have. Word is though it's going to be quite a big jump
nice
from the previous ones, which is why I'm waiting to buy it for the Oculus, because I also need a new graphics card for that. So that's gonna a lot of people are coding like neural networks and AI self-learning systems for these autonomous cars on GPUs now, and so having two GPUs integrated into your car is a good idea, because previously they've just been like mobile chips almost. I think a lot of them are like Nvidia, like Tegra chips, which you find in Nvidia phones. I think the Teslas possibly have them.
Right.
And you need a lot more computational power potentially to do autonomous driving. So that's really cool to see.
Yeah.
Them taking it as seriously as they're taking like designing mobile chips, because autonomous vehicles.
I mean, that stuff is the future. It's coming fast as well. And this thing it involves like deep learning as well, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it means it's going to gradually or rapidly just build up a better and better picture of the environment and stuff. So complex environments like busy cities and things like that. It will begin to learn more and more and more about how to react to certain situations, and kind of begin to build up like a database of like scenarios,
like the autopilot Teslas are doing at the moment.
Yeah,
they're building like high resolution maps, getting tons of data back, and centralizing that so that they can then make cars autonomous later. And these software algorithms that allow them to read streets better and things are all going to feed back into adding to high resolution maps, how to deal with very specific situations until it's better than a human driver is the idea, obviously. And it's going to be quite. I wonder how expensive it will be to add to a car.
Yeah, I mean, you'll probably imagine that for the next generation of like say the Tesla Model 3s or something will probably come with something like this. In them anyway.
And that, to be honest, actually thinking about it, I mean, if it's two high-end Nvidia GPUs, if it is high-end ones, maybe it won't be. It will be fairly high-end. You could be talking. It might cost, £1,500 to put in or something, which isn't much in the overall cost of like a £20,000-30,000 car. Yeah, not a huge increase. No. So yeah, you're right. So if Tesla said that they're going to be integrating these,
no, I don't know. I'm just
they'll just come with it.
Talking off the top of my head, speculating.
Yes, yeah.
The next generation of vehicles that have a goal of being autonomous, like the Tesla Model 3, for example, might come with something like this. Yeah. If not actually this thing itself. Yeah. As standard.
Yeah. And this is I was thinking about the hardware. It's liquid cooled, I think.
It is liquid cooled.
It's not just GPUs. It's got like 12 CPUs.
12 CPUs.
12 CPU cores.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I don't quite know Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's just can do a lot of processing.
Yeah.
Which is what you need. Build up very high resolution, very rapidly updating.
And it's also the speed in which you can crunch potentially a lot of visual information coming in. Exactly. You've got to make decisions like split second decisions. So a car can't be like sort of shutting down, loading, kind of having a Windows style crash whilst it's deciding whether to run a kid over or not. Like, it's got to decide to move and dodge it or whatever.
Or just accelerate, or just,
Yeah, whatever. I mean, it might turn like sort of genocidal.
If in doubt, accelerate.
I think if in doubt, brake would probably be there.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so that's cool to see. I'm glad. The more we see of these, because that's part of the like trend towards more deep learning, more AI stuff. That's at almost all GPU conferences now. There's like huge sessions on deep learning, on AI, on neural networks and things, and they're now becoming part of this. By feeding themselves into cars, they're feeding themselves into transport, into citywide smart cities. You're
going to start seeing integrate these systems. Like once they're really common, they going to start being centralized or like cloud based and like a brain, like an AI controlling citywide transport, or at least sort of all communicating and stuff like that to like optimize traffic flow and all that kind of thing in real time. And that's when you start seeing like emergent intelligence properties, and you never know, you're getting close to that singularity maybe. I don't know.
There's obviously that aspect of in 30, 40, 50 years when no car drives itself, where the city basically runs on its own. Yeah. That if you get like a solar flare that wipes everything out, suddenly no one can do anything. Yeah. There's always this fear with technology. It's becoming too reliant on it can potentially be a bad thing. Yeah.
But then you have simultaneously to develop ways of mitigating that risk.
Yeah, you have to engineer out the risks involved,
which is what will have to happen.
But there's always
always lags behind though.
It does, exactly.
People like, for example, like the risk from like asteroid impacts seems so vanishingly small, but it's so like catastrophic. If it did happen, it could be so catastrophic that people aren't really that worried in their day-to-day lives about like, oh yeah, we should be spending government money on trying to spot and catch asteroids because that's a waste of money. But actually, it's not, because if one hit the Earth, it could be like the worst thing that's ever happened.
This is the problem with it, is that people tend to be, or programs tend to be run based on reactive measures rather than preventative measures. So an over-reliance on technology might sneak up. People kind of haven't quite realised how devastating things would be if this happened, and haven't paid out money to engineer backups until there's a big disaster. Hopefully that disaster is big enough that it shakes us into do something, but doesn't like ruin everything. And like a city loses it and they lose loads of money for a year or something, and everything just goes tits up, but not tons of people dying or anything like that. Sure. Because if you've got like food delivery systems that are all automated, like you potentially have a humanitarian disaster on your hands very quickly. You have a huge
and stuff like intercity shipping, trucks delivering goods back and forth in cities probably all be automated. And
if farms are automated, like they're harvesting themselves and all this sort of stuff. Yeah,
man, it could be absolutely terrible, disaster kind of thing, humanitarian crisis. If like a solar flare wiped out. So
got to be careful.
Got to be careful, and we probably won't be. At least we probably won't be at the same rate as our technology is expanding. We'll have the preventative measures coming in probably a bit too late, and just keeping our fingers crossed that something bad doesn't happen.
Yeah,